G'day legends, I hope that you're doing really well, and I know you haven't seen me for a couple of days doing one of these updates about the situation on Ukraine. And today that will be it, and we'll get into the maps, and then we'll talk about some big events that have been happening and some of the news. But firstly, look, I'm in Turkey reporting on the catastrophic earthquake that happened here and Syria, and I've actually been lucky enough also to be in Syria reporting on that side as well. But sadly, my trip is ending short as I was involved in a car accident and I have injured my foot. And because the medical system here is overloaded, I'm choosing to fly home to get an X-ray on that and see what's happening. But I've also broken some pieces on my main large camera, which will be cheap for me. But that's why some of the production quality and audio may be limited on this, and I apologise for that. It's annoying that I'm having to end this trip early because it was a very big step for me and I've met some amazing people. But personally, this trip has been such a massive win. I've met great people and I have done some of the most meaningful stuff that I feel like I've done in my short career of doing this. But professionally, this was a massive fail as I didn't really find a target audience or get in the groove of doing this. But, you know, I took a massive monetary gamble on this as it's outside of my content. And in the end, money doesn't matter. Taking risk is everything, and those personal relationships and some of the stuff that I've got, I know will let me remember this trip and I think impact people more so than any amount of money. But I hope I provided you guys with some good information and represented the people of these areas well. Now, this video is sponsored by Atlas VPN. Legends, today's video is sponsored by Atlas VPN. I travel a lot for work and for pleasure, and I connect to a lot of different networks. And doing this, I make sure I always use a VPN to secure my time online. Well, today we can do that for less with this offer because Atlas VPN is offering you guys $1.83 per month plus 3 months extra with a 30-day money-back guarantee. It'll protect all your privacy online and carries many benefits for using a VPN at this ridiculous low price. You can take this deal by clicking the link in the video description below, but be quick as it is a limited time offer. Atlas VPN allows me to connect to other networks all across the world. So I'm able to watch things on, say, Netflix that are not available in my country. If I'm traveling and I want to watch a show at home with my partner that's not available in the country I'm in, I can also connect and watch it with her. On this channel, I try and keep things as unbiased as possible. And with Atlas VPN, you can search the web with real organic search results, and it'll do it without tracking any of your activity. This is more than just a VPN. It blocks all the malicious links, the ads, the trackers, and notifies you if someone is trying to steal your data. With one single subscription, it'll protect all your devices, as the device limit for this is unlimited. I recommend you this deal for Atlas VPN. For just $1.83 a month, 3 months extra, and 30-day money-back guarantee, it'll protect your privacy and get the many benefits of Atlas VPN for this ridiculous low price. You can take this deal through the link in the video description or the comment, but be quick as it is a limited time offer. Thank you, Atlas VPN, for sponsoring this video. As always, let's jump into the maps and have a look at what's going on. Now, today is the 18th of February, but I believe I haven't spoken to you guys since about the 10th. So let's rewind the map. Let's go back to the 9th. And we've got the Deep State map open, the ISW. Now, interestingly, in Turkey, live UA maps is actually banned. And as we know, Turkey does ban a lot of media and well as some social media, most recently being Twitter for a period of time during the earthquake because of the information that was coming out, although that came back up within 24 to 48 hours. But it did go down for a period of time. But we've also got open the Russian sources map, or a Russian sources map, as well as I've got live UA maps at the same time of the Bakhmut region and some things going on there. So I think this should be somewhat of a reasonable overview. So I've kept up a little bit with what is going on, but not everything, not, you know, daily as I have been doing, at least in depth. So let's just have a look over the past 9 days as we skip through, you know, the days here at Russia's advances around Bakhmut. And as I'm hearing, this Russian offensive, which a lot of people believe the offensive has actually started really when they started taking Soledar, has stalled somewhat. Now, if you go back a week or so in my video, we were seeing every day Russian advances in these areas. But from just having a quick look at the map, it doesn't look like that has gone very far. And speaking to some of my friends on the ground there, they're saying that Russia keeps changing their axis of advance here because they're not having success getting through. But let's just have a look on the day. So I believe 9th of 10th was their last day. So we're having, as you can see, small Russian gains. Now, Krasnohora, it has been said earlier that this town did completely fall under Russian control earlier this week, and we will see some moves around to the northeast of Soledar. And then we actually have seen, sorry, I'm just stepping back on the 13th, we saw around this road, now this is one of the main supply roads into Bakhmut, really one of three main ones. You've got this southern road, we'll call this the northern, and this sort of dead east to west. Now this road was known for being under fire control, but as we saw between the 13th, 14th, 15th, that Russia has either fallen back or Ukraine has pushed them out. Now, we did hear around this point that there was notices for Ukrainian civilians to leave around this area so that Ukraine could have better indirect fire on Bakhmut, but I cannot confirm that. It was just what I was hearing. So, 14th, 15th, as we see, Russia has pushed on this day a lot west or northwest of Krasnohora. This is, I believe, early in the week we were hearing about this possible encirclement, but now, as you can see, Krasnohora is almost completely under control at this point, and then till today. So you've got Bakhmut almost in this surround, although there has been some Ukrainian gain and Russian claimed controlled territory, which is by this sort of lighter grey area, actually push off this southern road. Now, whether that is for a reformation of another axis of attack or the Ukrainian IDF, as we know, Ukrainian artillery in this region has been incredibly impactful on the Russians, as all the Ukrainian guns are in defilade positions, basically being covered one way but still able to fire it. They've been incredibly effective, and a lot of people have been saying that Ukraine is continuing to hold this region just because it is bleeding out so many Russian troops. Now, let's see how deep in Russia is. So this is very similar to what we're looking at. We've looked at before this sort of V split in the road and this water down here, this like reserve. So this actual front doesn't look like they've moved much into the blocks of Bakhmut, which the map is current with. Now let's look on the ISW. Now, the ISW map is showing a lot more Russian claimed territory today up past this road, which we will call the sort of north-south entrance. But let's have a look. So that is here, and they're sort of claiming it's more in here than there. The ISW is a very reasonable map as well, and ISW is still saying that Russian claimed territory is up to this sort of southern road of entry as well. Now, let's have a quick look on the Russian state map and just see if there's any major differences. As we look at this sort of a water reserve here, it doesn't look too much different. It looks very similar. If we can bring this side by side somewhat as best as I can, it's looking very similar. And that's why I like to compare these maps, is just to get an idea of where it is, because I think you need to take from both sources, because all maps, all people have an agenda, have a narrative, and push that. So look, this map really is saying that the Russian control territory is up to this supply road here, and the claim control is beyond it, almost onto the border of Chasiv Yar, which is here, which is not really being represented on this map. And let's then look at the live UA map, and that is showing, compared to this one, very similar. Now, as I've said previously, I believe the live UA map is probably the most conservative towards Russian gains, although it is, in my opinion, definitely the most popularly used map. But again, it is showing very similar. But it does have this icon here of this flag, which is saying that mercenaries of PMC Wagner have reportedly captured this area near Bakhmut. Not even going to try and pronounce that. So that is to the south of Krasnohora. Let's see if we can see this. Yeah. So this region here, which is being shown, and the live UA maps have this photograph saying that they're in that region. Vuhledar, we have seen some horrific videos coming out of just waves of attack of like Russian armoured vehicles getting stuck in minefields, getting stuck by indirect fire, and the amount of lack of coordination is stunning in here from seemingly the Russian attack here. Now, I don't know what unit these troops are from and the level of training of those guys, but everything from running over their own guys with vehicles to just absolute panic, as you can tell by the vehicle formations just falling apart. and let's see if there was any gains over the past 10 days. Nothing really. But as we've said before, the train line through here, Russia really need as well, and they're not having any success in this region. And near Vuhledar, they have been going now at that for weeks, if not months, with, in my opinion, little to no success. Now let's see if there's any gains or losses near Avdiivka. There are small offensives, and the Kyiv Independent reported only over the past 48 hours that Ukraine had repelled 20 offensives from the Russians. So little bits and pieces as always, but no major jumps. Some more claimed Russian control coming to the southeastern side of Avdiivka. But there was small gain as well, I believe, near Kyiv down here, which this area has been under massive fire for now 6-7 months. But Russia did have, allegedly to this map, some small gain up onto this supply road, which is showing a lot more Russian claimed control in some regions. So we're talking well beyond this road to the southeast of Kyiv, but claim control. So let's look, we'll take these two roads as our reference point, these two roads. So this map is saying that they're on the southern side of this, let's skip forward, today, which is the same across maps, but the claimed control moves into Bolahira and all the way down here. So it's showing that the claim control is more like this, which we don't know. The Donetsk front has been, the source of much fighting for a long time now, and I believe that Russia over the past 10 days did have some small gain near Dobryatia, which is what we have spoken about, that Russia is claiming a lot more territory in here than this is showing. So if we can come to the northeast of Kupiansk, let's look on this map. So the Russian claim control is on the southern side of Liman Pershil. Let's have a look here, and then this is similar-ish as well. So it's always interesting to have a look at what's claimed and against both maps and what is the situation. But we know that the Russian offensive has most likely started, but I think some people thought that we would just see a massive push by the Russians. Maybe it's more of a slow grind, or maybe the Russians just do not have the equipment and the arms and the coordination between their army, navy, air force to make any more massive offensives like we saw in the beginning of this war. I know people will jump on me and say that Russia's got so much equipment, but what we have seen is we know Russia has massive amounts of equipment, but bringing that into the fight is seemingly the issue. That coordination between the elements just isn't there. And it doesn't matter if you've got 1 million tanks, if you don't have the command and control of those to come into a fight with air support, with the infantry support, whatever, it doesn't matter, and can be held off by a much smaller force, which which numerically has been happening this entire conflict. It's being reported that Ukraine won't get as many tanks as it was previously promised. Now, German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius indicated that Western allies are struggling to put together the 2 full battalions of Leopard 2 tanks to send to Ukraine as it was promised. Germany and Portugal are the only nations to commit the 2A6 variant of the Leopard 2. Now, as we know, the Leopard 2 has a 2A1 all the way up to the most modern 2A7, which is not being supplied, but they're getting the second most modern being the 2A6, with 14 pledged from Berlin and 3 from Portuguese. But that won't make up the size of a battalion. Pistorius continues to say, Poland has assembled about 30 units of the older A4 version of Leopard 2, which is almost enough for the standard Ukrainian battalion size of 31. But many of them are in poor condition and need repairs before they can be deployed. He added that those tanks will only get to Ukraine at the end of April, which we think about April, but I don't know if you guys are in this as well, but I think that we're right at the start of the year, but we're at the nearing the end of February. So you're talking a few months. That last few months has gone very quickly, and we haven't seen any major Russian gains in that. So, if Ukraine can hold off for a couple of weeks, couple of months, get these tanks in, we could see a major shift. Now, something that I've seen a lot shared and a lot of people angry about is the no F-16s for Ukraine from Poland. Now, I believe this is, media coming out of this, but I do believe that within this year, we will see an announcement of modern Western fighter jets for Ukraine. I think we saw the same with the tanks being, we'll never deliver them, same with the jets, but I think that it will shift at some point. But that's just my speculation. But during the Munich Security Conference on February 17th, the Polish Prime Minister said that Poland is not open to providing F-16 jets to Ukraine. But he did express the country's willingness to collaborate with other NATO countries in providing alternative fighter jets, being, Soviet-era jets, maybe MiG-29s. And we have actually seen Poland do this with parts in the beginning of MiG-29s. Right at the beginning of the war, Poland was going to send the complete jets, but then ended up sending the parts. Poland got a little bit of trouble for this because they were sending almost completed jets across, and Poland came back, well, the fuselage, engine and wings are technically still parts, which I thought was funny, a bit of a loophole for Poland there, and we've seen Poland being a massive supporter of Ukraine through this entire conflict. But the reason Poland gave was it's got, quote, very few F-16s in its arsenal. He also added that Poland has already sent 250 tanks to Ukraine, 60 modernised tanks, and 14 of the Leopard 2s. Ukraine Forum said on February 17th that supplying Ukraine with MiG-29 aircraft was a good alternative because they need a lot less training. That doesn't mean that it is as capable aircraft. It's not comparatively close, but the training required, the Ukrainian pilots are already trained and can operate that jet, but as well as the F-16, you may need a year, 2 years of training. So what we are unsure on is if Ukrainian pilots have been in the West training on Western jets. We have seen Saab with their Gripen fighter jet actually advertising online as well. Interestingly, they advertised the NLAW when Ukraine is using it, and they've started advertising their Gripen fighter jet. So we're not really sure if if Ukrainian fighter pilots have been in the West training. There's rumours that they have, and then there's people denying that they have. And it's interesting because you'd think if these people knew that they're training on the F-16, then they may not, be pushing the Gripen or pushing the Rafale. So we don't really know, but a lot of signs I think are pointing towards maybe no, which would have been a little bit silly. I think, we probably should have foreseen that fighter jets are going to be needed in Ukraine, whether in wartime or whenever this war ends and the border is settled, whether it be pre-2014 borders or something else is drawn up, I don't know. But there's going to need to be Western jets in here. We may as well get the pilots earlier and train them. Because if they say, it's going to take a year to train them, well, then the pilots would be ready now if we started at the beginning. Where if we only start now, well, we've got a full year. So it is very difficult. I often, every time I talk to some of the kids, I often bring up the situation of sending sort of satellites off into space. It's like, well, in 5 years, something will overtake it. But yes, but if we don't send it now, then what if we don't send something in a year or 5 years? It is a difficult situation. Talking of the MiG-29s, it is said they would immediately strengthen Ukrainian defence, and that is very important. Of course, very few NATO countries have MiG aircraft. We have several of these planes, and we will consider the issue. On February the 16th, Russia launched a new mass missile attack against Ukraine. According to Ukraine's Air Force, Moscow fired 32 missiles at Ukraine, and the Ukrainian military downed 16. Russia also fired a number of drones at Ukraine, but the exact number was not stated. And what was being targeted, as seemingly always with this, is critical infrastructure, and critical infrastructure was damaged in many districts. But I have to say, the Ukrenergo, who is like the state-owned grid operator for electricity, you have to admit, I don't care where you sit on this wall, you have to admit they're doing an unbelievable job keeping the lights and electricity on for now months and months, into almost a year and a few days after the critical infrastructure of Ukraine has been attacked again and again and again, and whole areas taken out. And I think every time I'm like, how can that rebound? Now, of course, I'm not an electrician or electrical engineer, but I'm like, that whole substation has been blown to pieces, and a few hours later, the electricity's back on. It's credit where credit's due. That is unbelievable. Another mass prisoner swap has also happened, between Russia and Ukraine. 202 prisoners of war were swapped, 101 each side, which 63 of the prisoners, of Ukrainian prisoners that have been freed back into Ukraine, were captured in Azovstal steelworks in Mariupol. Ukrainian's presidential office has said on Telegram, "We continue bringing Ukrainians back from captivity. Today, 100 of our warriors and 1 civilian are returning home. So thank you. That'll be me for today. Limited on sort of some resource here, but I'll be back in Australia. I leave in about 16 hours and I fly for 24 hours. So 36, 48 hours, you'll see me again, and I'll be back to normal production quality and everything else. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and thank you for your ongoing support. As always, I appreciate it. Bye-bye.